And look at the gender split. Hillary Clinton is beating Donald Trump by 20 points among independent women. In 2012, Barack Obama won this group by 1 point. So that's a pretty big deal. Take a look at white voters when you look at their college education split. With a college degree, white voters with a college degree, Hillary Clinton's got a 13-point advantage, 50% to 37%. Obviously, without a college degree, this is the core of support for Donald Trump. It's a 21-point lead here, but in our last poll, Chris, that was a 44-point lead for Donald Trump. African Americans, this is also key to Hillary Clinton's coalition. Wow, 95% for Clinton, 5% for Donald Trump. All of that outreach he's been doing does not seem to be upping his number among African Americans in our poll. And finally, that enthusiasm gap that we were talking about, well, Hillary Clinton has narrowed the gap. Remember back in September, Donald Trump had a 12-point lead among supporters that were extremely or very enthusiastic for him. Now it's a 6-point lead for Trump. Hillary Clinton's gone up 4 among her supporters in enthusiasm. Donald Trump's gone down 2. This is critical for why our likely voter model now is showing Hillary Clinton with this 5-point edge. Allison?
Okay, David, very interesting. Thanks for giving us all the headlines from the new poll. Donald Trump, meanwhile, digging in over his taxes, saying he, quote, brilliantly used tax laws to possibly avoid paying income taxes for almost 20 years. Hillary Clinton slammed the billionaire, saying that does not make him a genius. CNN's Phil Mattingly is live in Farmville, Virginia, site of tonight's vice presidential debate. Good morning, Phil.
No, good morning, Allison. It really all depends on how you want to spin it. For Donald Trump, the revelation that he may have avoided federal income tax for up to 2 decades is a huge positive for his campaign. Hillary Clinton, it is a hammer to bludgeon Trump's campaign. This is how they put it.
The unfairness of the tax laws is unbelievable. It's something that I've been talking about for a long time. You've heard me talking about it, despite being a very big beneficiary, I must admit. But you're more important than my being a beneficiary, so we're going to straighten it out and make it fair for everybody.
Some of his supporters said, well, it just shows he's a genius, that he didn't pay any taxes. Well, what kind of genius loses $1 billion in the first place?
Now, guys, how voters react to that spin, which spin they decide to believe is coming at a very crucial moment in this race. As you guys noted, only 35 days until the election, only 5 days until the next presidential debate. But one of the interesting things behind the scenes, Trump advisors on this tax issue for the weeks leading up to that big disclosure always thought that this wasn't something that resonated with voters. It wasn't something that was going to hurt them in the polls. You look at the new CNN ORC poll, that might not be true. 86% of voters say they believe it's a civic duty to pay taxes. So it looks like this is something that may have legs, obviously something we're definitely going to hear about tonight as Tim Kaine and Mike Pence square off in that vice presidential debate. Guys?
Phil, there's no question that the polls show what's somewhat common sense. People think you're supposed to pay your taxes, and they want transparency when it comes to Donald Trump's taxes. Now, one person you can count in that number is our vice president, Joe Biden. He was on fire in our interview, outraged by these latest developments from the Trump campaign with his taxes and his comments about veterans. He also had some interesting insight about what to look for tonight. But the headline for him was the way Donald Trump sees this country's tax obligations and its veterans. Take a look.
When you hear about situations where Trump says he's smart for finding ways to use the tax law as is provided, it bothers you.
Well, I thought it was about making sure you did your part for your country. I grew up in a household where my father used to say when someone talked, and it never made any real money, and they'd say, you know, I'm paying this or that in tax. My dad would say, it's a small price to pay. Since when does somebody who lives at the top of the world in the penthouse overlooking the world be in a position where he doesn't feel any obligation at all to pay any federal income tax, to support the military, to support education, to support our foreign policy? Since when is that a patriotic thing to do? Can you imagine any other president that's existed to ever say that and be proud of that? I can't fathom it.
He says the law is what it is, and you guys made the law the way it is, and he just knows how to work the system, and that's why he's the right change agent.
And if you notice the change agent he proposed, the change agent is what he's proposing in the tax cut would lock in all of those special interests for real estate folks and cut their taxes even more. This is all about Trump. The vast majority of billionaires and multimillionaires, they pay their taxes. I mean, can you imagine Warren Buffett saying this? Can you imagine Steve Case saying this? Can you imagine any of these guys saying this? It's just offensive. What's it say about all the people here? Are they all suckers for paying their taxes? Because they can't hire a tax lawyer? Because they couldn't make significant contributions to try to change the law to benefit themselves? Come on, man. It's just not right.
Trump is making headlines for saying that those who avoid PTS, post-traumatic stress, are strong. Those who succumb to it, therefore, by implication, are weak. What does that statement mean to you?
This is an ignorant man. This guy says things he has no idea about. He's not a bad man, but his ignorance is so profound, so profound. I have my staff contact the Defense Department every morning at 6 o'clock to tell me exactly how many troops are injured, exactly how many troops are wounded, because every one matters. It's not 6,700 and some, it's 6,753 deaths. Not 50, 53. It's 52,419 wounded. And the number of people coming home with unseen injuries, post-traumatic stress and traumatic brain injury, is significantly higher. What's this say about a guy who doesn't have any notion of that? Look at what these kids are going through. Look at the sacrifices they're making. And look what they go to sleep dreading. I was asked to present a Silver Star to a young man who had jumped into a young commander, jumped into a burning Humvee to pull out his buddy after an IED exploded. And the kid died. The commanding general, General Ordiano, asked me to pin on a Silver Star when I was there. You know what the kid said to me? I don't want it. I don't want it. He did not live, sir. He did not live, sir. That kid probably goes to sleep every night with a nightmare. And this guy doesn't understand any of that? How can he not understand that? How can he be so out of touch? He's not a bad guy, but how can he be so out of touch and asked to lead this country?
Wow. Compelling.
Unusually fired up, which begged a question. Wait until you hear him talking about the middle class and what he sees as the war and the manipulation of people's futures that are going on in the campaign. It begs a really obvious question. He's arguably more fired up about these issues than Trump or Clinton. How does he feel about not being in the race? He talks about it later on.
Oh, good. I look forward to hearing his answer to that. We will have more of Chris's interview with the vice president. Meanwhile, the vice presidential nominees, Indiana Governor Mike Pence and Virginia Senator Tim Kaine, are going to face off tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern. CNN's debate coverage begins at 4. Tune in for that.
All right, coming up next, more on the new CNN poll that has Hillary Clinton back on top, but it's a tight race. And what will Trump's efforts to turn the revelations about his taxes into a positive, what are those going to mean? Will they work? Next.